What's up, everybody? This is Terrence Plummer II. You're tuned in to the UCF Football Updates podcast. Let's go.
This is Mac Loudermilk, and you're listening to the UCF Football Updates podcast.
What up, Night Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the UCF Football Updates podcast. Today, we have a former two-time All-American Athletic first-team offensive lineman who played for the Knights during the best run in UCF history and was the team's starting center during that era. It's my pleasure to introduce an O-line legend, none other than Jordan Johnson himself. How are you today, man?
I'm doing great, man. How about you?
I'm doing great, man. Well, I'm excited to have you on. I've been excited for this interview, so I'm going to get right into it. So yeah, man. So I want to start off just kind of, going to your freshman year, 2016, you pretty much after the first game of the season, going to that second game, you got right into the starting lineup, and which from an offensive lineman standpoint is, pretty rare. How are you able to kind of just enter that starting lineup so quickly and really make an imprint from day one like that?
Just blessed, man. I've been lucky to be injury-free all throughout my career, and I was able to just come right in and make an impact. I didn't start the first game, but I did play a lot. I played most of the second half in that game, and then from that point on, I just started the rest of them. So I thank God, thank my coaches for believing in me, and I made the most of it for sure.
Absolutely. And then before your sophomore year, you go from guard and you switch over to center. And then all of a sudden, right away as a sophomore, you're already making that first all conference team as a first team member. Do you think that was just kind of like a natural improvement you had from year one to year two and getting more comfortable? Or was that transition from guard over to center, was that better tailored for your game?
That may have had something to do with it. I never thought of it like that. The main thing I was thinking of, the way you worded it at first, is just the big transition from freshman year to sophomore year. I tell guys all the time that that's where you're going to grow the most as a college football player, from year one to year two. So I think that had a lot to do with it. But center was a good fit for me as well. I was able to make all the calls up front and get everybody on the same page, and had a lot of fun, winning a lot of games doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You were, really the quarterback of that offensive line for a number of years there. So I want to go back to that freshman year experience though. UCF gets off to that first game. Like you said, you played a lot in the second half, but you started starting really in that second game against Michigan. I mean, that was your first ever start, if I recall that. I mean, what's that like, I know you played that first game, but saying, hey, you're going in, you're starting right away in the big house against Michigan, one of the biggest brands in the country. Obviously, maybe that can be intimidating for a freshman. What was that like, getting that call to start against Michigan on the road? And what was that atmosphere like?
It was awesome that our coaches believed in us young guys. So, because I wasn't the only young guy that was playing on that field. It was me, Adrian Killens. We had a couple guys on defense. I think Nate might have started freshman year. We had Jaquarius Barnett. We had a bunch of guys, freshmen out there starting. Tristan Hill, like all of us were incoming freshmen. So it was exciting to be out there, especially on the big stage in the big house. That's one of the biggest stages in college football. There was 103 fans there that day. Like I still remember, like it was yesterday. And it was awesome, and it was great for AK to get out on a long run for us, and that was one of our very few touchdowns that day. But we let them remember who UCF was at least.
There's no doubt about it. That run was so cool, that Adrian Killens run. We didn't, quite get the result we wanted, but that I'm sure that was a cool experience for everyone. So, coming out of high school, when you initially did choose UCF, at that point, that was prior to UCF's obviously big run that you were such a big part of. UCF didn't really have necessarily the name that it has right now. How much, and you had offers I saw from, some other big schools, Ohio State and some other schools around the country. What kind of factored into your decision to choose UCF? Obviously, you're from Jacksonville, so it wasn't too far away, but did Frost play a big, role in that recruitment, and what ultimately led you to choose the Knights?
Well, Frost was a big part of it for sure. I was always sure to not choose the school for the coaches because I was told someone gave me some good advice in high school, like hey, coaching changes happen all the time. Don't go to the school for the coaches. Go for other reasons. And one of the main reasons was obviously the proximity to home. I wanted to be somewhere close. Like my mom was able to come to every single game senior year, home and away. So that was awesome. And I really enjoyed my official visit there. Everything they had to offer. Someone else gave me some good advice saying, so don't just talk to the people that are there to show you the school on your official visit. Go talk to someone else who isn't getting paid to tell you how great the school is.
Right.
So I always made it a point to go speak to someone, whether it's the janitor, someone walking down the street, like just anyone, and saw how people really get treated around this organization or this area of the town or whatnot, and not just what they're showing me. And nothing but good things to say about UCF. Even coming off a winless season, people around there they knew that things were looking up and they were going to look up fast.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, you say that obviously that first year you're there, you guys have, a 6-win season, things starting to turn around a little bit. But heading into 2017, I wouldn't say there was like massive expectations, at least publicly and from the fans. But you had, been on there just as a freshman, and maybe, he had just gotten acclimated to some of the guys that had been on that George O'Leary teams beforehand that were still on the team, the holdovers. And you saw some guys like Jordan Akins, who prior to the season actually said he thought UCF could go undefeated in 2017. But did you and like mainly like your freshman teammates, guys like KZ and AK, did you really feel that you were on the verge of something special in 17? Like, did you truly believe for the season you'd go undefeated, or do you think, hey, maybe this could be like, like a 9-10 win year? Or do you really think, hey, we got a team right here that's really going to be this special?
I tell people all the time that I knew we were going to be good going into my sophomore year, the 2017 year. Now, did I predict going undefeated? I'd be lying if I said I thought we were going to win every single game. But I knew we were going to be good. We lost a lot of close games 2016. Games that could have went either way for 1 or 2 plays. And a lot of games like that happen in college football. But we lost on the last play against Temple. We lost in double overtime against Maryland. We lost against like all these other schools. And there were only 3 or 4 opponents that soundly defeated us that year. Mm-hmm. Michigan, I think Tulsa was one. That freshman year, we should have really beat USF. They went and scored another touchdown in like the last 30 seconds of the game. But like a lot of the games that we lost were 1 or 2 score games. And
they're
we should have on the other side of those. So once we started winning those close games my sophomore year, things really started looking up for us. That was the biggest difference, that we won the close ones.
That makes sense. Well, speaking of that improvement that you guys all made as a team in 17, I got to talk about, KZ, obviously someone that you've hiked the ball to a million times. I know you're close with him. How about, like you said, you thought as a team you'd be good, but what about you and the team? Did you really see that type of improvement from KZ? I mean, he showed some flashes that freshman year, but a lot of people recall this. He got kind of booed off the field in that bowl game loss to Arkansas State. And then he comes out in 17 and, enters himself after that year into the conversation for one of the best UCF players of all time. Did you realize he was going to be that special?
We knew KZ was going to be good freshman year, like coming in fall camp. The way he's pulling and pitching the ball out to the flat routes and to the bubbles, and he's pulling the read option. We knew he was going to be good. And the thing was, he was going to redshirt freshman year. He sat out the first 3 or 4 games maybe. And then when he ended up coming in against Maryland and doing his thing, and unfortunately we lost, but he showed a lot of promise. And he ended up leading us for the rest of the season. And yes, he got booed off for the poor performance that we all had against Arkansas State. Because I'll tell you right now, out there on the field, their D linemen were talking mess, and there was nothing that we could say. It's like, yeah, you're right. You are kicking our butt right now. You're absolutely right. So it happened. We put it in the past, and then we used it as a chip on our shoulder the next year.
Was that like – oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, in the following year, all 25 of them after that.
Absolutely. I mean, when you guys do get, booed off the field, obviously, that's, just fans being fans. They're disappointed. It was a bad performance. But, you're around KZ, you're close. What was that like for him mentally? Because I can imagine someone that moves across country from Hawaii all the way to Orlando, and he's getting, booed. I mean, I would think until, we didn't know what he was going to become yet. Was that like tough on him? Because I'm thinking my family's across the country, like, screw this. I don't have any loyalty to UCF yet. I've been here 1 year. I'm getting booed. I can just go play at a California school or at University of Hawaii. Was there anything that you saw in him that kind of maybe deterred him from maybe wanting to come back, or just being kind of like, I don't know about this situation?
I mean, I'm sure he had things that went on that we may or may not have known about. I know that homesickness was easily one because he's from Hawaii. He's all the way basically on the other side of the world, almost.
Right.
But his mom ended up coming out there. She bought an apartment near campus and had me over all the time, had Tristan Hill, a bunch of us over all the time and hanging out. It was always a good time. And I think that her coming to Orlando was huge for Mackenzie. And, I mean, he was the player that he was. And his mom came sophomore year. She wasn't there freshman year. So was mom the reason why we went undefeated for 25 games in a row? Maybe,
Right. No, that makes complete sense. So I want to talk about that special 17 season. So, you start off with an easy win over FIU, and then, you get a quote unquote upset win over Maryland on the road. But for me as a fan and someone that's, a super fan and watches every single UCF game from start to finish, in my opinion, I always remember telling people, I felt that third game against Memphis, the conference opener, was the game that really, I think was like a turning point for UCF. I felt like, Memphis that previous season in 16, they were 8-5. They had a top 15 team top 15 offense in the country that previous year. And then you guys go out and just spank them 40-13. Their offense can't do anything. AK's running all over them. You had like that huge touchdown run that broke the game open. Did you feel that Memphis game was like a turning point that, hey, we're going to be real special, or maybe it was a different game, it was a couple games after that, or how did you feel about that specific game?
That specific game for sure. But I think that just week in and week out, like we just always knew, like we just expected to win, It was like going into the game, we felt we were solid in our game plan. Everybody was on the same page. We felt like our preparation was better than our opponent, and that was going to will us to victory every time. Now, don't get me wrong. The Memphis game, we soundly defeated them. Like, we put up a lot of points on offense. Our defense held them. I think they only scored that last touchdown, like the last couple minutes of the game. So we were up, like, we were big the whole game. So looking back, that was definitely a turning point in it. I don't think we knew right then and there, but for sure that was a big stepping stone in that 2017 season.
Yeah, it's funny. I've interviewed a lot of the guys on the 17 roster, obviously you now, and Mac Loudermilk, Mackenzie himself. And a lot of guys have said the same exact thing you said, which is we just knew every week we're going to win. I'm curious because I've never really followed up on that question. What was it that gave you that belief? Was it, because you're talking 3 games into the season, you're already feeling that, or 4 games, whatever it is, before you're, it's easy to say, okay, when we're 10-0, we believe we're going to win. But when you're 3-0, 4-0, and you still had some tough opponents coming up, what caused that belief? Was it like the coaching staff or the talent, or what really led to that?
Just our preparation, and that's such a bold term to say, like a broad term to say it. But I think we all just believe, like, the coaches presented us to us what they found from watching film, from game planning, and it all made sense to us. But like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's get our guys open. Let's go run for it. Like, they can't stop us in the run game. They can't stop Mackenzie throwing the ball. We got Trey Cohen. We got Jordan. We got all this. Game was young, but we still had him. Like, we had guys everywhere, weapons, Otis, like everybody. So we knew that we were going to win. And it wasn't an arrogance thing. It was a confidence thing. It was like, our preparation is going to have us be successful at the end of the week.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. You guys had the preparation, and obviously the talent stacked all over the field, didn't hurt at all. So, but as good as, you guys were that year, and obviously had some big blowout wins, there were definitely some close calls that year, whether it was, the Memphis game or the Navy game, I should say the Memphis Conference Championship game, the USF game. And I think obviously the talent, like you said, everything, the preparation, but there definitely was some balls that quote unquote bounced our way, whether it was Memphis missing that, pretty easy field goal and that led to go to overtime in the conference championship, or, the USF game with the perfect run back from Hughes. Do you think, was there any part of you that felt like luck, or I don't know, maybe luck's not the right word, but something in that realm kind of played a factor when you're on a team like that and you're, a 10-0, 11-0, 12-0, or even just the 25-0? How much does luck or balls kind of bouncing your way matter, especially when you talk about, we had 3 or 4 really close, one possession games?
I tell the guys all the time, especially now being a coach, they're like, the harder you work, the luckier you get. So you put yourself in good situations, things are going to happen in your favor. So just continue to do what you know best. Continue to do what we're coaching you to do. Think something's going to happen. Something's going to just fall in our favor. And just having that belief, knowing that, hey, it's going to work out in our favor. It generally does. We try to focus on things that what are going to go right rather than what could go wrong. Because especially on offense, like on defense, one guy could go rogue and make a play and 3-yard loss. Boom, big play. One guy goes rogue on offense, it's a busted play. So you got to have everybody, all 11 guys on the same page. And every now and then you just get lucky, and we thank the football guys for that.
No doubt about that. Well, you were obviously, led one of the best rushing attacks in the country, or protected and opened up holes for, one of the best rushing attacks in the country. Guys like AK that you mentioned, Otis, Taj, Ventavious, all these guys. We were top 10 in the country in rushing yards, and we broke multiple, school records those couple of years there. How much of that was, you think, the running backs versus, the offensive scheme, or was it a lot of it, at least from your standpoint, just the chemistry that you and the rest of the O-line had, Jake Brown and Hudanik and all these guys? How much was that a factor in the success in the running game?
I think that was the biggest thing. The last thing you said, just the team camaraderie, the wanting to do it for your brother, everybody being on the same page. We were really big on that as an offensive line. I remember the spring going into my sophomore year, before the undefeated season, we had some referees come out to practice, and the referees, we asked them for their critique on how they think we did in our spring scrimmage,
Right.
And they were like, but honestly, the offensive line looked kind of disjointed, kind of out of sync, So we took that kind of personally after they told us that. And then for the rest of the year, for the first 6 games, we didn't give a sack. I think the first one finally came against Cincinnati, game 6 or something like that. And we only gave them 13 on the year, which was top 5 in the nation. And we could look back on our season and say that our offensive line was in sync and jointed rather than disjointed and out of sync. So we took that personally. And I think that not only the sacks, but opening up the hole, all of that is just guys being on the same page and deciding that my man isn't going to make the tackle.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, it's the O-line was so crucial during that run. It's funny though, a lot of fans look back and they talk, and you think the faces of the program then, Mackenzie and AK and Traquan and Gabe and all that. How much does the O-line, you guys do so much, but I think the average fan probably doesn't see it as much as a touchdown catch or a huge run. Was there any part of the offensive line that's like, hey, we kind of want our due, or we want, not in a bad way, just is it kind of, what's it like to kind of see all of the offensive stars get all of that, love, nationally and all that, when you guys are doing a lot of dirty work?
It's what you signed up for as an offensive lineman, and we all understood that. And I think that any offensive lineman in the nation knows that you get all the blame and none of the glory. You're the scapegoat when things are bad, and nobody's going to really say, hey, great job when it was good. And it is what it is. Nobody's butthurt about it. And we also knew that yeah, we gave him 13 sacks, which is so good, but we also have Mackenzie Milton down there refusing to get tackled in the backfield. So it's like, yeah, oh, watch out, here he comes. And then somehow Mackenzie evades him and throws a 30-yard downfield. We're like, hey, great job, Mackenzie. That should have been a sack, but thank you anyway.
Right. Yeah, no, he was a magician, no doubt about that. I always get, really interested in the sports psychology, especially hearing from someone like you that's played at a really high level. I think it's funny, even as fans, during that 17-18 run, as the undefeated streak started to bleed into 18, when we've won 15 in a row, 16, 17, all of a sudden it's getting into historic levels, in college football history. Was there any part of you that felt just like immense pressure to keep that going? Because, when it finally ended, I think as much as it sucked, we all kind of had a collective sigh of relief as fans, because it was just like every week, like, all right, come on, let's keep this going. Let's keep this going. How much pressure was there? Like, not only do you have the expectation to keep winning because you guys are really good and you have that streak, but you want to keep the streak alive. You want to keep that good feeling alive. So how much pressure was it once you got into the teams of winning streak to really just keep that alive? Did it become more about the winning streak at any point than the actual just individual game by game basis?
I think that when you try to focus on trying to keep the streak alive or trying to win 25 games in a row rather than just win one in a row, which that monster started coming up, I think, around junior year when Heupel got involved. They started saying 1-0 when they did the 1-0 Orlando thing. And it was cool and all, but that's what we really believed in. It wasn't just, oh, we're going to go 1-0 this week. No, we were going 1-0 in the classroom, 1-0 in the film room, 1-0 at practice. We would mention it all the time. And yeah, it's cliche. Yeah, it's rah-rah, blah, blah, blah. But, like, if you say it enough times and everybody starts believing it, it works, So
Sure.
we truly believe it, and I think that it really did work.
Did you feel that pressure, though, to keep winning?
Quite honestly, Frost used to always say this before all of our games, and I think it held true for everyone who was at least in those meetings. Pressure is what you feel when you don't know what you're doing. And we don't feel pressure because we know what we're doing. So I don't think there was a whole lot of pressure to keep winning. We just wanted to win, and all of us had that burning desire to keep winning.
No doubt. What about, did you ever get a chance to, during that run, sit back like in the moment and actually enjoy it? Or because, a lot of times people, whether they're on a great sports team run or even like just an amazing TV show where they're enjoying all this success and accolades and critical acclaim and all this stuff, a lot of people sit back and be like, I didn't really get to enjoy it. Was there any point where you sat back and got to live in the moment and be like, wow, we're making history here, not only in college football, but at UCF as the best team ever. We're really making history and putting a footprint, our stamp on this school. Did you ever get to do that, or was it all kind of happening too fast?
No, we definitely stopped and smelled the roses a couple of times, and it was awesome. I can vividly remember when Burkett is taking the pick six back against Auburn, and I'm sitting on the bench like jaw dropped, like we're about to win this game. And like, don't get me wrong, I believed in that the whole time. What? But then once we get have that meeting that announces who we're gonna play in the Peach Bowl, it's like, all right, well these last 12 games have been great, guys, but now we're playing against the big boys now, And then all throughout that bowl practice, even when the coaches came back, it was like we're playing with the elites now, so we need to practice like the elites now. So things were just a little bit different to fine tune us going to compete against better competition than what we were used to.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And then, Frost does end up leaving after that year, after all that speculation. And, you don't see too many times a coach leaving after an undefeated season. Obviously, it's something that's pretty unique to just group of five schools. And unfortunately it did happen. But then you transition to Heupel. What was that like in the locker room? I mean, you heard the rumors and then obviously the news broke and you did get him back for the Auburn game. But what was that like to go from this coach that, by all accounts was a player's coach everyone loved, and you just complete this historic year and then he's just gone just like that. And then you have this new coach. What was that transition like just in the locker room and the mentality?
Honestly, I commend Heupel for coming in, inheriting a lot of good talent, but also still having to cultivate that talent and do something with it. And Frost had us we were running through a wall for Frost. Anybody on that team for the most part, and for Heupel to come in and still be able to have success with what someone else has built is great, because we were all bought in on Frost. Frost leaves, and I was like, we're never going to buy into anybody else again, because we were all in. And then he comes in, and we still have just about the same success, maybe a little drop off, but it's kind of hard to not to be 100% perfect again, So it was great. I commend Heupel, and he was a player's coach too. Ross had that swag about him, and then I think that Heupel still did a good job of tending to our needs and trying to be there for us anytime we needed him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to talk about that year, specifically the end. Hazy, obviously, last game of the regular season suffers that catastrophic injury, and we've all talked about that a lot. But I'm more interested in you go through that season undefeated. KZ gets the injury, and you guys still rebound to not only win that game that he gets injured in, but then win an emotional game against Memphis in the conference title game, and then play your ass off against LSU. You see it in sports and pro sports where a leader, obviously a huge playmaker, gets injured, and the mentality of the team just goes south. It's really, really hard to, recover from that, especially someone as impactful as KZ. Not only do we all like him, but he was obviously, one of the best players on the team, and he's the quarterback. How are you guys able to rebound and still win 2 games without him and then keep it super close against LSU? Is it kind of like something you were just playing for him? Or how are you able to keep that mentality to keep winning when you lose someone so impactful like that and to a devastating injury like that?
Yeah, it was hard seeing our friend and brother and teammate and all of the above go down like that. And then, as cliche as it sounds, yeah, we started playing for him, and I think it was huge with the people behind the scenes that probably don't get enough credit. The people who came up with the 10 Ohana saying and all of the hashtags and all of the reposts on social media. Like, that goes a long way for people who are into that kind of thing. And then, reaching out to our brother, making sure he knows that we're playing for him. Like, he's literally on FaceTime with us on the sidelines. Like, stuff like that is like, we're playing for you, bro. We're about to go out there. Yeah, we're down 17 right now, but we're going to come back out and do something for you, all right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys really played it so close with LSU. I think if, KZ plays that game, we probably keep that winning streak going against LSU, as good as LSU was, obviously. And then you go into, 2019 when that winning streak, I mean, the winning streak ended against LSU, but the regular season kind of winning streak kept going into that next year. You beat the daylights out of Stanford. And I was like, whoa, when I saw that game, I was like, whoa, we can keep this thing going. But when it finally ended against Pittsburgh, what was that? How tough was that to kind of stay motivated? Because in the group of five life, basically you can't really have any losses, or you're not going to the Engineers Six Bowl. So you play back to back, Peach Bowl, then Fiesta Bowl, and I think that year, if we go undefeated, we're going for the Cotton Bowl or whatever it was. Was it hard to kind of stay motivated, keep the morale up after you get that first loss and know, hey, we might not be playing for what we played for the last couple of years?
Probably, for sure. Looking back, I don't think I thought to myself, like, oh, season's over. But, looking back, it probably at least played a role in the way some people felt about the season. Looking back, I obviously wish we could have won them all, every single game. But, I mean, it showed that we had character. Even though we lost, we still finished with a 10-win season and had arguably still a good season compared to everybody else in the nation. We were still in the upper tier of teams throughout the nation. So it was a bad year, and we still won 10 games.
Right. No, it's true. I mean, you still won 10 games, so it's like you can't really complain there. So, I want to transition now. We enter, obviously, after your time, you graduate, but we enter a new period of UCF football now, the Gus Malzahn era. How do you feel, about the Malzahn era? Obviously, he's had, back-to-back 9-win years. We're going to the Big 12. What are your thoughts on the Malzahn era? And are you still keeping in touch? I mean, I know you're a coach at an opposing team, but do you still kind of keep in touch with the UCF and keep up with it? And how do you feel about this era under Malzahn so far?
I think he's doing a great job so far. Coming straight out of a big organization and coming into UCF with is big now because we made a name for it. But it's cool to see a guy who we were opposing a couple of years ago, and now he's on the UCF side. So it's fun, it's exciting, and I'm excited for UCF for the future. Like they always preach the future of college football. So let's see them right future. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, you talked about too, like, when you had to play Auburn, you had to practice like, you're one of the big boys and everything you had said. Now that and you're you're at a program that is part of the Big 12, and you also are a coach at Cincinnati, and you saw them, play against the big boys in the playoff and go on the run that they did. What do you think it will take for UCF to be successful in this new conference? Because as we saw the last couple of years, we won 9 games, which is great, but we still lost to Louisville. We had a loss to some conference opponents this year and last year, and obviously those SMUs and Tulsas and Tulanes, no disrespect to them, but now that's getting stepped up to Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, West Virginia. So what is it going to take for UCF to have a successful transition?
Same thing it takes every other organization in the nation. Recruiting, getting guys in. We say it all the time, it's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmys and Joes. It's about the guys that are running up and down the field. I think the biggest discrepancy between SEC football and Power 5 football, Big 12 versus Sun Belt and Group of 5 teams and AAC is just the talent level, and not just the talent the first team. Like everybody, first team is going to be good. Like all of us, the starters, we're great, but like I think the biggest difference is at those levels at least, the second stringers are generally just as good as the first teamers, or they're competing for a spot, forcing the first teamer to keep getting better, or you're going to get your spot taken. Or if one of the first teamers get hurt, they get a second guy in there and they don't miss a beat. That doesn't happen a lot of times at the Group of 5 level. So whenever someone gets hurt, it's a big deal. It's like, oh man, our guy is hurt, So it happens, but they just got to get in, recruit. And I think that one of the things that sold me on UCF is that, hey, there's a possibility of us moving to the Big 12 in a couple of years. Like, come to UCF. And now it's cool to see that it's finally happening. Wish it would happen a little bit further, but it happened. And I'm happy for UCF. But recruiting is the name of the game. Everyone knows it.
Absolutely. Well, I want to get into your coaching career in a second here, but after you graduate, I every year on my page I do a kind of like who I predict to get drafted, or at least sign as an undrafted free agent pros. I was really shocked that you didn't get as many pro looks. I mean, did you try to make a pro run, whether it was in the NFL or CFL or even like these USFL, XFLs, or did you not want to go pro after? What kind of happened there after you graduated from UCF?
So after I graduated, I immediately started training, and obviously I had every plan to go to the NFL. It has always been my dream to be in the NFL. I can vividly remember being a little kid wanting to be in the NFL one day. I immediately started training with Tom Shaw Performance down in Daytona Beach. And when I didn't get drafted, in large part because of COVID and a bunch of NFL pro days getting canceled, my NFL pro day, along with everybody else who came out with me that year, his pro day got canceled. So we had to record it virtually, and I put mine on YouTube and had a couple teams reach out to me from that. But it's just not the same as having guys come and actually watch you. And then not only did pro days get canceled, but rookie mini camps got canceled that year as well. So it was just harder for guys in my boat that would have went undrafted. But it is what it is. Everything happened for a reason. I immediately started. Well, I started first with the door-to-door windshield market, and then once that blew up in large part because of the UCF Night Nation, I was reached out to by Tom Shaw Performance, the people who I was training with for my pro day training. They asked me to join their staff as a strength and conditioning coach, and I love Tom Shaw. I would work for him anytime. So I was like, yeah, I'm there. So I started training with Tom Shaw as a strength and conditioning coach, and then I get the call to go to Madonna University at an NAIA school up in Michigan, startup team, first time having a football team. I was their offensive line coach for the spring season because it got canceled. The fall season got canceled because of COVID. So I coached up there. And then I got the call to move to Northeastern State down in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, Division II. So it was like a step up from the NAIA level. It was great coaching down there, learned a lot from, and it was my first time learning as a coach because I knew a lot as a player, kind of replicating what my coaches did as a coach. But then I was able to go be a graduate assistant and learn from another coach. And then got the call to go to Cincinnati. And now I'm learning from another coach at a bigger university, a Division I level, potentially going to Power 5 soon. So that was awesome. And then I got the call to come out here to Oklahoma State. It's just been kind of moving up from here, and every round goes higher. Now I'm coaching Power 5 football. I love it here. Everything is great, and I wouldn't change a thing about my timeline.
No, that's great. Yeah, you're already on your way on in your coaching career. So it's funny. So you go to Cincy, and you were there for what the first kind of their undefeated run, like when they lost to Georgia. Was that the year you were there?
No, I didn't get there until after their college football run. I got there after the college football playoff run. I got there last season. So I was
Gotcha.
there. I got around February of 2022. And I was there for the whole season and throughout the spring and the summer.
So what was that like, going back to the conference that you had been a part of for a number of years, but really, other than other than USF, probably our main rival, at least right now, Cincinnati. What was that like to kind of, be a part of an enemy team, so to speak, especially when you had some great battles with them, played against them on College game day and all these big games, and now you're coaching for them?
It was great. It was bittersweet for sure. Just given all the talk you're gonna hear from the players, because I played against a couple of players last year when I was at Cincinnati. I played against them when I was at UCF, so it was fun to have our little, our rah-rah talk, like, oh, if this would have happened, oh, this would have happened, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, they like to bring up the time when they beat us and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, I don't even remember that. Like, I tried to forget that. Sorry, could you remind me what happened again? But that's cool, like, to be a part of that and to game plan against a team that I was just a part of not even 2-3 years ago. So it was cool. It was cool being back in the Balance House. I had never been to the opposing locker room before, so that was cool. It was a very bittersweet moment for me, for sure.
Absolutely. And now you're at Oklahoma State. Funny again, you're right back at a same conference as UCF as UCF makes the transition, and Oklahoma State's obviously a longtime member of the conference. So what's it like, going there, coaching under Coach Gundy and at a big school like Oklahoma State?
It's great here, man. Life is good. I love the way that we treat the players. I love the way that the players treat the coaches. I love the way the coaches treat the coaches. The fan base around Stillwater is great. This is the epitome of a college town. The only thing that is here is Oklahoma State, and people really they love their Cowboys out here for sure. So it's been great. I got here not too long ago. I was here for the whole spring, so getting my feet wet with that, getting to know all the guys, getting to know all the coaches, the players. Having a couple of recruiting visits, getting to know a couple of the recruits, putting out my footprint as a recruiter. It's been great here so far. I'm enjoying myself in Stillwater.
Definitely, that's awesome. So what are your kind of coaching goals? I mean, obviously you're at Oklahoma State right now. You'll see where that path takes you. But I mean, do you have goals of maybe coming back to UCF one day as a coach?
We shall see. Only time will tell. I mean, I'm obviously not opposed to it. I would love to be a position coach soon. I mean, I'm going into I think it's my 4th year being a graduate assistant now. So I think after another year or so, I'll be ready to run my own room again. Yes, I've run my own room at the NAIA level, but I'm ready for bigger and better things. I love continuing to grow and learn as a young coach, and love even more the places I've been able to do it, the resources and access to most lump songs of information has been great for me. So I just keep growing and learning as a young coach, see where the world takes me.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, you talk about being a young coach, someone that, was a player not too long ago, where in the time that you've left playing to coaching, the world of college football has had the biggest change it's ever had with the portal and NIL. What are your kind of opinion on it? Obviously, it's great guys get their money, but I always kind of say, my opinion is, and look, I'm not a player, I haven't been one, but as a fan, the transition from not being paid and to NIL, when you combine that with the transfer portal, I think there's been some negatives. It doesn't, I think the loyalty to the team is not as much, and just the depth of rosters, they're always switching even more than the NFL, or guys are actually under contracts. They kind of have to stay there for a year, 2, 3 years. This, now you could leave after 4 games in one season. So what's that like being someone where you're not super far into your coaching career, where, oh, it's been this way forever, where, but you were also a player recently, you're like, well, I kind of wish I got that money when I was a player. I mean, where do you kind of fall on that when it comes to NIL with the transfer portal?
The second one, what you just said. I went to college at the wrong time and all the time. I'm out on all this stuff that's out there that's able to be got right now. I could have been the one that was getting it. But looking back, I obviously wouldn't change anything. Went to UCF, life was good there, won a lot of games, everything was great. I've always been huge on loyalty though. And even when I had the opportunity to go other places, I decided not to. I wanted to stick it out because I went to UCF for the reasons that I chose UCF, not for a coaching staff, not for one guy, not for who I was playing next to. I went there because I wanted to go there. And even if the transfer portal was a thing more so than it's always been a thing, but just being able to not be penalized for transferring or receiving compensation for transferring now, it's crazy to know that these are what the times are like. And it's just crazy to see everything, the way that it's unfolding. And like you said, there's a whole lot of negatives that come with it. And there's some positives, and maybe the negatives outweigh the positive, maybe the positive outweigh the negative, who knows? But I just know that I went to college at the wrong time.
Fair enough. Well, it's funny. I mean, UCF is dealing with some pretty big turnover in their O-line right now. I mean, really the only returning starter is Paule, and I guess maybe if Tylen Grable starts again, but UCF now pretty much for the last 2 years when it comes to the offensive line has had to rely on the portal. I mean, this year they've got 4 O-line starters, which 3 of them are predicted to be starters, or unless we're talking about, maybe a freshman starting over them or something like that. I think running back, wide receiver, you could probably plug and play some of those guys if a guy transfers out and a new guy transfers in. But O-line, every O-line guy I've talked to, and I've talked to guys back from the 2013 team, whether it's Jordan McRae or Chris Martin, to guys that you played with like Aaron Evans. And chemistry is such a big part of O-line, and those guys I'll talk about, you talked a little bit tonight, is that you guys had chemistry on the O-line. How hard is it for the O-line to just be kind of slapped together with potentially 3 or 4 transfers and just one returning guy?
I think it's tougher than any other position, honestly, just because, like you said, the chemistry, and then offensive line is just the most unnatural position. Like 200-300-pound guys in there wrestling for leverage and hand placement. Like, it's just unnatural. Like, you can plug in a wide receiver, and quarterback and wide receiver need chemistry, but if you go tell Calvin Johnson to go run a hitch or go run a fly or go run a post, like, he's going to go out there and run it, and any quarterback can go put it on him,
Right.
So offensive line is different. You got to learn calls. You got to learn technique. You got to learn how we do things here. You got to learn what we call things here. It's different, and it takes time for guys to come in and learn it. And that's why if someone transferred before the spring, it's great because then you get the whole spring to practice those things. Or if it's after the spring, you got to get them in early in the summer. And I'm talking about every day in the locker room on some trash cans, making calls. And that's what our coaches always did for us. And it goes a long way, just especially for the guys who are visual learners, more so than just going in a meeting room and talking. Like, someone who actually needs to go out and do it. Those things are huge for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now, this year, big year for UCF coming up, their transition to the Big 12. I'm curious, it's funny, Oklahoma State is going to come down to Orlando, and that's arguably UCF's biggest, most exciting home game of the year, in my opinion. Out of all the other Big 12 schools that are coming, I think Oklahoma State kind of has the biggest reputation, or at least best recent run of success out of all the other schools that are coming. And then you also host Cincinnati. So what is, I mean, it's funny how like the timing works and the plan works where, you're playing, UCF, the school you played for, bled for 4 years in Orlando, and then you host your most recent school, Cincinnati, at Oklahoma State. So what is that like for you, kind of emotionally playing both of those schools as a member of the coaching staff for OSU?
As a coach, you kind of have to keep the emotions out of it. You have to. You got to just see it for what it is. When I'm breaking down film, when I'm trying to see tendencies, I'm not thinking, oh, look, this is Anthony Montalvo, who I played against a million times. Like, I know him. I can't do that. I have to. What have you done for me lately? Like, what have you put on film lately? I can't just be like, oh, I know he's a high effort guy, high motor. He's gonna keep working the swim move. I can't do it. I gotta watch the film and say, okay, lately he's been working the spin move, or lately when his left foot is back, he'll fake left and then break right. Like, I have to be a student of the game as always. You can't just treat your emotions like, oh yeah, I was at Cincinnati last year. I know who their D-line coach is. I know what he teaches them. Because what if he has a new defensive coordinator he's working for now, and he's telling him, oh, you have to do this, this, and this. Like, I can't just go off what I think I know from years past. I gotta watch the film, gotta leave my emotions and prior knowledge of the team out of it, at least for the breakdown and the game planning aspect of it.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. That you got to keep your emotions out of it, but I'm sure that will be a pretty cool experience, getting to play both teams. But when you talk about your kind of coaching, I think one of the things that made you a fan favorite at UCF was that you definitely have like a very positive attitude. You're always smiling, and and you're very motivating. I know you have another page that talks about exactly talks about your motivating with Coach Jay. How much does that style come into your coaching?
It's who I am, and the whole new world of content creation and everybody trying to blow up and be famous and stuff. It's like, what are you really doing it for? And like, a lot of times stuff on social media can be fabricated. It's like, okay, you got this certain angle, or you're like this in front of the camera. What are you like behind the camera and whatnot? It's like, when you are the content, or like when you are just being yourself, like when you're naturally motivating, when you're naturally positive, when you're naturally like, it's not a job, it's not forced. It doesn't sound scripted. It's like, I'm just being myself. I'm going out there and I'm having fun with the players, because I was just in their shoes a couple years ago. I can give them like valid like coaching points and like life lessons that I just experienced a couple years ago. Like,
Right.
Trust me, bro. But it works. Whatever I'm telling you, it works. Just listen, and you will be successful.
Absolutely. So now I kind of want to, finish up here, ask you some rapid fire questions I like to ask all my guests on here. So you were a obviously offensive line, and in practice, you're going up against UCF's defensive line. Who would you say was the hardest opponent for you to block? When I say opponent, I mean hardest UCF player that you had to block in practice. Who kind of gave you the most trouble, or who did you find to be kind of the best guy that you had the best battles with in practice?
Easily Jemiah Pittman. Easily. And that's not even a question. I mean, don't get me wrong, Tristan Hill was strong and quick and fast, but like, to stop a bull rush, you just need to get your weight down, center your gravity, get your hands inside, and drop your hips. Like, drop an anchor is what we tell that. Drop an anchor, you can stop a bull rush. But Jemiah Pittman was not only fast and strong with the bull rush, but he's quick. He can hit you he'll set up one move and do another one. So like, every time I'm in pass rush, I'm like, all right, I got to be on my stuff, and I'm going against Pitt. All right, when I got to get my hand on him quick, or I lost. So
Yep.
He definitely made me a better football player every practice.
Yeah, no, he was a beast, and he played for the Dolphins for a couple of years, so obviously a pro player there. What about who was the hardest opponent, both I guess to be team and player, that you felt you went up against, that like on UCF's schedule, maybe it was a conference opponent that every year you played them, you're like, damn, that this guy is real hard to block? Was there a team that maybe had a collection of guys, or was there a certain player on a certain team in your 4 years that you felt was real tough?
I feel really bad for this, but like, I never knew the guys' names. Like our opponent, never knew the names. I can tell you numbers like nobody's business. Like number 10 for USF, sophomore year, junior year, he was great. I can't remember his name. He got drafted by the Falcons like the second round. I think his last name was like Sanat or something like that. Number 11 for Cincinnati, their linebacker. I don't think I've ever been hit that hard in the college football game. So he was great. 96 and 44 for Cincinnati, 2 D linemen. They were both really good. Obviously, the big guys up front against LSU and Auburn. I mean,
Oh yeah.
What's the fast linebacker name from LSU? I think he was 45.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. White, I think his last name was.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, never knew their names, but I can remember their numbers. Like I'm still looking at it right now. But just to name a few, big number 72 from LSU. He was like 370 pounds or something. And he wasn't like the best D lineman I ever went against. He was just gigantic. Like, go watch the film. It's me and him one-on-one, and it's just like stalemate every play because he's gigantic. And I'm trying to move him and cannot.
Yeah, you definitely went up some big guys, some great opponents in your era there. What about who was the funniest guy on the team when you were playing?
Oh, that's tough. We had a bunch of characters. Probably Bell. That's the first one that comes to mind.
Who was it?
Oh my God,
Neville Clark. Yeah.
Gabe is hilarious. Gabe Davis. Otis was always clouded. AK. So AK and Otis used to steal our player development guy, Steve Smith. They used to steal his phone like on a weekly basis and like take it, run around. It's bad. Take his phone, run around the facility, take a bunch of selfies, FaceTime people, like just mess, like being menaces to society. Who else? Oh, Pitt was hilarious. I got a video on my phone right now of Pitt and Bell rap battling in the old recruiting lounge, like before the Garvey Nutrition Center. The recruiting lounge, what it used to be called. And we used to have our meals in there every night. And Neville Clark and Javon Smith is in there freestyle battling. And it was hilarious. So Pitt is one of the guys. A-Rob, honestly. Who else? We had a bunch of funny, hilarious guys on our football team.
Sure. No, so I was just saying, like, what's like a little known story from back in that era that, maybe fans don't know about, something you're comfortable with saying?
A little known story from that era. That the fans didn't know about.
Huh?
A couple come to mind that the fans can't know about. What's something that they can know about?
Something they can. Maybe it's with the coaching staff or one of the players, or I don't know, maybe a cool story that helped motivate you guys to get a win, or maybe it was something pregame, or I don't know, middle of the season during the bye week.
Listen, a couple of things coming up to that the fans really not know about. So, let me say something that's PG-13, I guess.
Yeah, PG-13 will work.
We used to, to settle our differences in the locker room, 2017 year, we used to go into the locker room with some boxing gloves. And that used to get pretty heated up in there. And a couple of times it like turned into something that it shouldn't have went that far, But for the most part, it was friendly. We call them friendly fades. A fade is when somebody throwing hands. Mm-hmm. Friendly, get in there, throw some boxing gloves, settle your difference, touch gloves at the end, and it'd be good. I ain't even gonna say no name. Our differences.
Yeah, no, that's funny. No, thanks for that story. All right, final question is a lot of fans care about uniforms. So what is your favorite UCF uniform that you wore or that you've seen?
Tough one. Because we had so many good ones.
So many good ones.
The first thing that comes to mind is the all black with the gold helmets that we wore against Cincinnati. That was nice.
Oh, those were hard.
Gold cleats too. The helmets with the pictures inside the logo were awesome. We had a bunch. Obviously, the space jerseys. Oh my God, my favorite
My favorite Space jersey was. I wish that I could combine, because don't get me wrong, I like the white against Houston ones, but the ones before that, the season before that, the black jerseys with the constellations on them,
Okay.
with we could have matched up the black jerseys, the black Space jerseys with the dark side and light side of the moon helmets. Oh my God, that would have been crazy.
No doubt. Yeah, no, those were all good choices. Well, hey man, appreciate you joining the podcast. That was awesome.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the UCF Football Updates podcast. That was former UCF offensive lineman Jordan Johnson. You could find all episodes, including this one, on my YouTube channel and clips on my Instagram, ucf.football.updates. We'll see you next time. Go Knights and charge on.